1 point. Coco Gauff was 1 point from being eliminated in the fourth round at the Foro Italico. 1 point from a tournament exit that would have ended the conversation entirely. Instead, she is now standing in the Italian Open final for the second consecutive year, and that single statistic puts her in a group of three American women in the last 35 years. Just three: Venus Williams, Serena Williams, and now a 21-year-old from Delray Beach, Florida, who nearly wasn't even here. I've been watching women's tennis in Rome for a long time, and I'll tell you right now, what Goff is doing in this city deserves far more credit than it's getting. The narratives around her lately have been noise. The early exits at Indian Wells, the third round collapse at Madrid. Analysts wrote her clay season off before May even arrived. I was skeptical myself after Madrid. I'm not going to pretend otherwise. But that's the thing about Goff that separates her from the next generation. She has this maddening, almost irrational ability to find another gear when the calendar actually matters. Now, here's the bit that actually bothers me about the coverage. Everyone is framing this as a feel good redemption arc. Oh, she lost last year, now she's back. Isn't that lovely? That's lazy. That fundamentally misreads what is actually happening technically on the clay courts in Rome this week, because the Goff who beat Sorana Cirstea 6-4, 6-3 on Thursday is not playing sentimental tennis. She is playing calculated, suffocating, tactically mature tennis that is genuinely difficult to look away from. Let me show you what I mean. Look at the second set, fourth game. Goff is serving at 1-2, facing pressure, and she opens the point with a kick serve out wide to Cirstea's backhand. The return is clipped midcourt and Goff doesn't wait. She moves inside the baseline immediately, takes the ball early on the rise, and cracks an inside out forehand that pins Cherstia so far behind the corner that she's essentially serving the next ball from the advertising boards. That sequence, the kick serve setting up the forehand, the early ball strike, that's not instinct. That's rehearsed intent. That's a game plan being executed with precision. Cirstea, for what it's worth, is no pushover. She's beaten top 10 players this year. Her flat, low bouncing ground strokes are genuinely uncomfortable on any surface, and on clay they can be even more disruptive because they cut under the topspin and stay low. But Golf solved that problem early. She kept her contact point high, absorbed the pace, and redirected with heavy topspin cross court, pulling Kirstea wide and then switching direction. The unforced error count for Cirstea in the second set tells the story. She was being manufactured into mistakes. She wasn't choosing them. I was looking at the tape and noticed that Goff's baseline aggression this week has a different quality to it than last year. In 2024 and even in patches of 2025, her aggression was reactive. She'd attack when the ball was short, when she was given an invitation. Now she's creating the invitation herself. She's loading more topspin on the second ball of rallies, pushing Cirstea further back, and then stepping in on the third or fourth ball as though she scripted the entire exchange. The court coverage is still elite, that's always been there, but the offensive sequencing is sharper, more decisive, less tentative, and tentative is exactly what she was in last year's final against Jasmine Paolini. I'll say it plainly, Goff was outclassed. Paolini won 6-4, 6-2, and it wasn't close. Goff herself admitted in the press conference that her serve was off, that she could have put more balls in court, that she wasn't at her best level. She was accountable, which I respect. But accountability doesn't win you a title. Adjustments do. And what I'm watching this week is a player who has made a very specific, very visible set of adjustments. Her first serve percentage is up, her breakpoint conversion is more clinical, and crucially, her body language under pressure is different. She's not collapsing. She's leaning into it. Before you come at me with the obvious counter, the drawer opened up, the opponents weren't top 10, let me address that directly. You're not wrong that Swiatek or Svitolina in the final is a different animal, entirely from Cirstea in the semi. But here's the historical context that reframes everything. When Venus Williams reached back to back Rome finals in 1998 and 1999, she was doing it against the deepest women's draw in the world at the time. She lost the 1998 final and came back to win in 1999, defeating Mary Pierce in the championship match. When Serena Williams reached consecutive Rome finals in 2013 and 2014, she beat Victoria Azarenka the first year and then dismantled Sara Errani 6-3, 6-0 in the defense. That is the lineage Goff has just entered. Not a participation trophy lineage, a championship lineage. Both Williams sisters won on their second visit to the final. The blueprint exists. Now, here's where it gets genuinely interesting, and this is the part most analysts are sleeping on. Goff is ranked among the genuine contenders for Roland Garros, which begins in under 2 weeks. Rome is not a standalone event in her calendar right now. It is the final dress rehearsal. Every match she plays at the Foro Italico, every adjustment she makes, every pressure situation she survives is going into a database that her coaching team will use for Paris. Reaching the final here isn't just a milestone, it's a training session with trophies on the line. And the confidence that comes from winning matches in tight moments. Remember, she was a point from the exit in the fourth round. That confidence is not something you can manufacture in practice. You can only earn it under fire. The fourth round escape deserves its own conversation because that moment is the psychological hinge of her entire tournament. She was a point from being out, a single point. Whatever happened in that moment, whatever she said to herself, whatever adjustment she made, she didn't just hold on, she turned the match. That kind of mental resilience is the thing that separates contenders from champions in Grand Slams, and Goff demonstrated it at the exact right moment on the exact right surface heading into Roland Garros. Now, the final. If it's Iga Swiatek, and as of now that is the more probable outcome, then we are about to find out exactly where Goff sits in the hierarchy of women's clay court tennis in 2026. Swiatek on clay is a different conversation entirely. Her top spin RPM on the forehand side, her court positioning, her ability to dictate from the first ball, it's suffocating. The head to head on clay has not been kind to Goff historically, but the Goff I've watched this week is not the same player who was dismantled in Paris editions past. She's serving with more conviction, she's stepping inside the baseline with actual intent, and she's constructed her game around absorbing pace and redirecting, which is precisely the skill set required to have any conversation with Swiatek on clay. If it's Elina Svitolina, the dynamic shifts. Svitolina is one of the best defensive players on the women's tour. Her court coverage is exceptional, and her ability to stretch rallies and force errors from aggressive opponents is underrated. For Goff, that presents a different tactical problem. She'd need to be more patient, build points with more deliberate construction, and resist the temptation to go for winners a ball too early. It's a test of discipline rather than firepower. And I'll be honest, I'd rather see Goff solve that problem than be handed a comfortable opponent. I was looking at the tape and noticed something else from this week that I haven't seen discussed anywhere. Goff's return position has shifted. She's standing closer to the baseline on second serve returns, particularly against right-handers, and she's taking the ball earlier and driving it back deep and cross court, rather than stepping back and generating her own pace from the baseline. It's a small adjustment with massive tactical implications. It compresses the server's reaction time and forces a defensive third ball. Against Swiatek, who is one of the most composed servers on tour, this approach won't win Goff free points, but it denies Swiatek the comfortable rhythmic exchanges she prefers. It disrupts the cadence. And in a clay court final, disrupting rhythm is half the battle. Here's my 3-month read on what this moment means. Goff wins the Rome final or she pushes deep into Roland Garros. I'll say semifinals at minimum, with a genuine shot at the title if she is still playing with this level of offensive clarity. The clay season has been her proving ground, not her comfort zone for most of her career. But the evidence from this week, the mental resolve in the fourth round, the clinical dismantling of Cherstea, the tactical evolution in her baseline game, points to a player who has genuinely figured something out on this surface. And if she has, then the rest of the tour needs to pay attention because a Goff who has solved clay is not just a Rome finalist. She is the most dangerous player in women's tennis over the next 6 weeks. Venus and Serena didn't just reach back to back Rome finals, they built legacies on red clay. One of them won the title on her second visit to that final. Coco Gauff has her second visit. The stage is set. And if she plays the way she has played this week, the conversation is going to change dramatically.